Hey everyone, Livy here, back with our video. This is Crescent Dreams Tarot, and today we are continuing our deep dive into the court cards by finally examining the Knights, who, you know, they might possibly be some of my favorites in just the whole court system because I don't know what it was about them, but they were the easiest for me to understand right off the bat with tarot. Like, I knew pretty well what that energy was. And maybe it was because I was reading so many Arthurian legends where there were so many different kinds of knights that it was kind of easier to pick and choose and know that way. But anyways, if you've seen the intro video for this series, which I do recommend you do watch before this video, then you'll recall that the Knights are the most active of the court cards and in my opinion are of the fire element. Once again, you're allowed to disagree with that, but I do explain my reasoning, in that intro video, so please watch that if you're confused. But anyways, the Knights also have historically in tarot, right, been seen as those with useful energy and are also the most likely to be hustling to get things done. So like the other video before this, my pages video, we are now going to look closer at the 4 Knights, and I'm going to explain the keywords I introduced in videos previous for the Knights too. And we'll also examine more characters that I think already embody the traits of those Knight characters. So without further ado, let's get into it. Today, we're going to start with my absolute favorite Knight, I think, which is the Knight of Wands, which is the fire of fire elementally. Being fire and fire, it should literally surprise no one that the keyword I would attribute to it is the firecracker, right? And for good reason, right? A Knight of Wands is someone who is fiery and energetic and quite possibly the living embodiment of that meme of the boy that's going like, I have the power of God and anime by my side. And the friends are like, what? And he just starts screaming, ah, like that meme. If you know what I'm talking about, it's basically the embodiment of that meme, okay? They're impulsive, they're daring, brave, and the most likely to jump into a new situation and prove themselves, and are probably the most determined because of that, okay? So, Knights, right? The Knight of Wands. They're very much too into the act of creating and doing and don't often spend too much time thinking about the consequences of their actions. Still, they have a lot of heart and are always the first to stand up to others and have someone's back, okay? That's very much in the Knight of Wands energy to me. And it's for that reason, though, that I also find them endearing. They at least, you know, they try. They're trying their best, okay? So, here are some great Knight of Wands cards from tarot before we start launching into the character study, okay? Quite a few. The Knight of Wands, I think, and the Knight of Swords are going to be the cards that we see kind of the most. But some of this are simply, like, for instance, as you can see, there's a lot of, like, animal cards. And these are just interesting to see the differences of how, like, even elementally, how the Knight of Wands can be, like, so different across animals. I'm trying to... Oh, by the way, this is not... It wasn't necessarily this keyword that made me decide the firecracker is the right Knight of Wands, but this is basically showing that energy. This is from the Practical Magic Tarot. This is basically like what remind me, yup, okay, the impulsive, daring, just doing stuff that you probably shouldn't be. That is definitely a Knight of Wands, like this one from the Herb Crafters Tarot. Just the cayenne, that fiery energy, the act of creating, Knight of Strength. The D&D Tarot, for some reason, the Strength suit is for the Wands. Actually, let's talk about these ones before I move on, because again, I have some more, so it's like a lot at once. So, the Knight of Strength, as you can see, this this elf is boldly, elf fighter, I'm going to assume, by the armor and stuff, is boldly taking on this monster. Really doesn't stop to think. It's just go, go, go. Let's get it done. Let's slay the monster. We have different animals, right, that kind of represent the same energy. We have actually a fiery salamander, the rabbit going go, go, go. Even this Knight of Wands is just very bold, even if it's in the water, you know. Interesting takes on it. I just liked these, even though they're more like plant elemental. The passion flower as the Knight of Wands, very good imagery for that. I already talked about this, the cayenne. Oh, this is from the Botanica Tarot, by the way. Sorry. Where do I want to go with this? This one and this one are just kind of like showing that Knight of Wands, like, energy. Traditional. This is more traditional, right? To have the knight on the horse. She looks gung-ho and ready to start. The lion just looks like he's ready to go off into battle. This one is the 5-cent tarot. Oh, sorry. The Wonder World Tarot and the Guided Hand. Anyways, 5-cent tarot. This one has keywords, and I like the keywords. It says adventure, action, energy, passion, right? Those are all traits of the Knight of Matches, so very good keywords. But I also like that it does show the, you know, the downside to it, which is impulse, heedless, anger, right? They can be very, very fiery. Firecracker. And even just a dream vision tarot, Knight of Wands, just has good, like, that energy core. We have some other ones, though, I want to talk about, because these ones are also really good. More animal reps, more traditional. Again, these two are more traditional leaning. Oh, I'm going to save her. I'm going to talk about her, though. This just has vibes. Like, that's like the color vibes, sword vibe, more vibes, right? Like going into battle. This one also being free and impulsive, right? Like, usually people, I do notice people, when they are depicting like tarot versions of this, they're actually pretty good at, like, creators are pretty good at getting into them. Since these two are the smallest, let's talk about these first. This is a Darkwood Tarot. The Darkwood Tarot, I have to say, this is the mini. Darkwood Tarot, if you're looking for a tarot deck with really good quartz, these are really good quartz that are showing in them. I like this Knight of Wands. It does show a more traditional side. They're actually holding the wand. They're ready to go off into battle. Literally, the horse is like up and roaring. I like it. It works. It does its job, right? This one is the same thing. The Knight of Wands is already having a spell ready. Has to face off against a fiery dragon. That's kind of, again, Knight of Wands energy. Just diving right into it. This is the Everyday Witch Tarot. I also have the mini of that. Let's talk about some of these. I thought these two were interesting because you see Knight of Wands in action, but it's almost like a kid, you know, playing on the horse. This is from the Green Glyphs Tarot, by the way. I liked this Knight of Wands. And I also like this one from the Nicoletta Ciccoli. Did not expect to, but there's something about this. I like the vibes where it's very, it's like a more whimsical take on the Knight of Wands, going into this, like, candy forest, off on its pig steed. It worked for me. Then we have, of course, I'm going to organize these actually by, like, yeah, type. We have the more traditional writers, but I like the different depictions, like from the Lillifer Tarot. I like how active this one is. It's like literally commanding this lizard thing into battle. This one just is carrying the torch, but it's ready to go, go, go. This is from the Terra Nova. Shadowscapes Tarot. It's a vibe more so, but I like the animals involved. The lion for that passion. The foxes for cleverness. They just look like they're ready. This is the Shadowscape. I like this one. This one is one of my favorites, though. I already talked about that in that video. This one is also one of them. But Knight of Wands. I love this depiction from the Tarot of the Divine for the Knight of Wands because Tatterhood and all the energy involved in this, the active, very active, go like steed. It's the colors too. Something about this is just very, very good. This bottles up the energy very well. Also, I think just because her facial expression, it hits so good. Oh, I forgot, this one's also the steed. This is from the new, like, the Zerner Farber. It's very confusing. They have the prince instead. I think that's more of a Thoth-based tradition, even though this deck is not necessarily 100% Thoth. But this Prince of Wands, a knight, is, I don't know, it just has the right vibes, I guess. That's why I picked it. This, how do I explain the rest of these? Like, this just has the right Knight of Wands energy, I think, for me. An animal, like the hawk, being very active. Same with, like, a snake and the wand. I think this is just a beautiful depiction. This is from, oh, shoot, what is this deck? It's one of the newer ones in my collection. Please bear with me. I know it's the Afterlight. Oh, Forger's Daughter. This is the Afterlight edition. I like also, like I said, these two are more for the vibes. This is the Knight of Wands from the Raven's Prophecy. The Flaming Sword, you know, very on the nose, but gets to the point. This is the energy that this embodies. And this one, in a more royal, regal standpoint, just has the right color notes. But you can even see, like, the person's face in there. It's kind of, like, interesting and they're ready. And I also just like the dragon depictions in here, highlighting, and the passion of the flowers. So again, a lot of good tarot examples. These are also some of my favorites though. This Knight of Wands I've talked about. It's the same thing going on with Tatterhood. It's just the vibes. There's something about this. The right color scheme. You have the salamanders, the trickiness with the, like, having the mask. Their wand is ready to go. They're very active. They're moving. This, like, it's a good character study in itself of, like, the energy of that Knight of Wands and how they're ready to go. And I love it. This is from the Northern Animal Tarot. I have the 3rd edition that does not have the linen finish. This was, like, one of the first ones I did. I'm kind of, like, a little salty about that because I kind of prefer linen, but love this still. And this is from the Starseeker Tarot. I have the pocket edition. This Knight of Wands is just perfect. They leapt off their cliff and they're ready to go. Again, has more of that, like, fire energy, despite the card not looking it. And then finally, we have to talk about Disney villains, because I've been talking about the cards in this for this whole series and otherwise. This Knight of Wands, Mim, I believe is her name. This is from the... No, this is not from the Black Cauldron. This is from the Sword and the Stone. That's right. She faces off against Merlin, and this is an interesting depiction of her because she's technically, like, a villain, but she's very, she's very, like, silly, but she knows how to, like, strut her stuff too. She's I don't know, I really like that they chose her for this. So those were really good tarot depictions. Now we have to get into the meat of this, right? We have to, when it comes to finding these characters, right? Let's talk about characters. When it comes to finding the Knight of Wands characters in literature, otherwise, okay, I have noticed that this archetype for the Knight of Wands, shows up the most in anime, okay? Anime is where you will see the Knight of Wands show up a lot. Anime, manga, etc., okay? That's why I have here very good examples of Knight of Wands energy. We have Naruto Uzumaki, of course, from Naruto. We have Rin Okumura from Blue Exorcist. And then we also have Natsu Dragneel from Fairy Tail, right? All 3 of these characters have that Knight of Wands energy, okay? They embody, you know, that fiery impulsiveness, as well as, you know, strong determination. They really do not give up very much. And if you've seen any of these animes too, you also know what I'm talking about with just their vibes and their energy, especially in their magic, right? Or their powers, I guess you can say. They're also the fire elements. Like Naruto, I guess. Naruto, he's kind of more towards like that lightning, but still he has blue flames, literally fire in his hands, right? But on the literature side of things, because I always like to include a book just so like if people don't, you know, vibe which shows as much. The literature side of things, a character that I think is a Knight of Wands for me is definitely Gideon from Gideon the Knight. That's supposed to be Gideon on the cover, so that's why I included the cover image. Gideon Nav, man, she's impulsive and brawny and not afraid to say or do what she thinks is right. Even if it pisses off the people around her, she is that Knight of Wands energy on like the high key, almost like meme-like note, right? But deep down too, she does have a lot of heart. She jumps into dangerous situations, right, to protect her allies, or the people she might have feelings for, because it's like hinted that she kind of has feelings for some characters. And that dynamic for me is why she's very much that Knight of Wands. So yeah, let's move on though. Okay. After the Knight of Wands, I really want to talk about the Knight of Swords. And this is a knight that I think can very much be misunderstood. And I definitely need to explain my keywords for it. But first though, from a tarot element standpoint, the Knight of Swords is both air and fire. Which can be a volatile mix because while they mostly follow logic, having that fire in them means they're sometimes prone to the energy and moods that comes with it. Like all the knights, to be honest, but also this, I'll talk about it later, but this is also reflected in the King of Wands since they parallel each other. They have both fire and air in them too. The keyword I've assigned to the Knight of Swords, though, is the antagonist. And before someone gets up in arms, okay, especially if the Knight of Swords is your fave for some reason, I should point out that antagonist does not equal villain. So I want to put that off the bat. I'm not trying to, like, villainize a Knight of Wands, okay? An antagonist in a story or in any form of media is simply anyone who opposes the protagonist. And a main character can even be an antagonist, by the way, just so you know. So again, it's just someone who opposes. And it simply also means that it has nothing to do, right, with moral alignment. They're just most likely to speak up or act in a situation, and that generally puts them at odds with the collective, right? The general collective of people. Knight of Swords are also very blunt. They're very logical, and a lot of times they don't really care who they hurt along the way because they believe they're right. They're very, very stubborn in that way. They believe it's their way or the highway, and it is what it is. You could also say, I mean, yes, you could also say a lot of villains are Knight of Swords energy. And every time I think of this card, I will say, I'm going to show this one first. I do visualize this one from the Raven's Prophecy Tarot, which in turn makes me think of the character, Sylar from Heroes, this one, right? He's 100% a Knight of Swords, and honestly, he kind of used to terrify me as a kid. There's a scene in the series, there's a scene in the series where he literally uses scissors, very much like this. And if you know what I'm talking about, you know what I'm talking about. There's literally blood on these scissors, right? So don't get it twisted, though, because yes, okay, villains... A lot of villains can have Knight of Swords energy. But besides Sylar, you know, who else is also, in my opinion, right? A Knight of Swords. Wednesday Addams. Okay? The girly everyone's been obsessed with again since the show came out. She is a Knight of Swords. Straight up, to a T. There's no really divination, like deviation, you could say. She is the Knight of Swords. Insanely smart and talented, but incredibly heavy-handed and blunt with her words and actions, which, you know, does end up hurting a lot of people at different points in time in the series. And I can also say, right, Edmund Pevensie, right, from the Chronicles of Narnia, he is also a Knight of Swords, albeit more when the series begins and what happens in later books. But he's sharp and he's logical with his words to the point, sometimes of cruelty in regards to his treatment of his sister Lucy. But he was fueled a lot by his own self-interest until it worked against him. And then he had to learn to be a lot more careful with his words and actions for others, and actions towards others, I mean, for others to be able to trust him again. So for that reason, he's also a Knight of Swords. And I know I just shared the characters first, but it kind of made my point tied in with this for Sylar. Yes, they can be villainous, but really the antagonists are just people who are not always, what's it called? They're just, a lot of people have opinions about them, basically. It's that kind of vibe, okay? But anyways, with that said, let's look at some actual tarot examples of this, right? Once again, from, oh, if I didn't say this earlier, this is Anima Mundi Tarot. Again, more animal depictions that I think are done pretty well. Anima Mundi, Spacious Tarot, and the Knight of Swords from the Ocean Tarot, right? So some animal depictions that I think are pretty good. We have some... I'm going to show some of these a little bit at a time. Knight of Needles. This is again from the Five Cent Tarot. We have Unstoppable, Focused. They do have a lot of courage, I will say. But they are also unpredictable, aimless, and sometimes, you know, it also shows up on here as impulsive, right? So they kind of mirror the Knight of Wands in some ways, but in a very, like, I don't know, kind of more blunt, mean direction. This Knight of Swords from the Paulina Tarot just has the right facial expression, I think, that we sometimes think of the Knight of Swords. This is verging more on, like, that villainous note. These two are just ready to go into battle, to cut away with their words and actions. I liked the keyword from this one, although it's very interesting. This is, again, Practical Magic. This is a Machiavelli, Knight of Swords. A lot of venomous, daring going vibes. Knight of Intelligence, Knight of Swords, Morse Knight of Swords that I think just work well, you know. There's a lot of them. Some of these are just vibes, as you can see. I don't know if I can explain all these, because I realized as I was doing the Knight of Wands that I was just, like, talking way too much. But you can see, like, a lot of these show up throughout. Even this one from the Nicoletta Ciccoli mini. I do want to bring up this one from the Knight of Swords from the Lion Strider Tarot. I'm pretty sure what's being depicted here is a scene from, like, you know, ancient times kind of knight. I don't know if that's supposed to be, I can't remember. I'd have to look up in the guidebook, but I think that's supposed to be like an Achilles-like figure. I have the Lion Strider mini. Once again, talking about these two minis too, Knight of Swords from Darkwood Tarot, and the Knight of Swords from the Everyday Witch. Also very good depictions of that Knight of Swords. They are, I could also have put that keyword in there. They're also brave, right? But they also just say what they want to say. Even this Knight of Swords from the Morgan Greer in a tin has that facial recognition, which is why I wanted to put that in here. More vibes, you know. This one is supposed to be Oedipus Rex, by the way. I think this one from the Literary Tarot actually is a good depiction of the Knight of Swords being impulsive and brash. Got him in trouble, right? He ended up accidentally marrying his mom, killing his dad, and in penance, he plucked out his eyes. You know, just a lot of crazy vibes there, but like the Knight of Intelligence being ready to go. Knight of Swords, by the way, being frickin' Boromir from the Lord of the Rings. This is from the Lord of the Rings Tarot, the Inside Edition one. Boromir is a great Knight of Swords. He was the antagonist of that first movie, but in the books, I think that scene technically happens in the Two Towers. But yeah, Boromir, like, you know, trying to be crazy and getting the ring, and like how the ring twisted him. Really good reflection of the Knight of Swords. This one just has the right, like, energy vibes. Again, most of these are energy vibes here. Or they just have, like, they're boldly going and ready to cut away, and they're not afraid to say what they say or act how they act. I didn't watch this movie, but I thought this was a fun depiction. I know this has to do with the Rescuers Down Under. I've never seen this, but the guidebook mentions bits that I thought were good. So, again, Disney Villains Tarot has to be talked about. So, really good Knight of Swords, sorry, going in this video, or in this representation. Okay, let's now talk about the Knight of Cups. The fire and water, right? Elementally, they're fire and water. Also, interestingly, it'll intersect with the Queen of Wands, but I'll have to talk about that more when the Queen's video releases. But anyways, the Knight of Cups is a fascinating card and character to me because they're very romantic and charismatic, and probably the closest to what people in ye olden times would have thought a truly chivalrous knight was, okay? They are insightful. I would say the Knight of Cups are very emotional too, but generally they keep things light, and unless they're in one of, I guess unless they're in one of their moods. And this card is about kind of too like those people who tend to light up the room they enter, right? Whatever room they enter, they're probably the life of the party, the Knight of Cups. And they are usually well liked, right? Because they are very friendly with everyone. So that's like kind of the vibe I get from the Knight of Cups the most. And two, when they tap into that like more fire side of things, they also can be very passionate and driven. And they possess a positive like optimism about reaching their goals. They're not really, not to say that no Knight of Cups can be like down in the dumps bluesy about these things, but like they're very much like ready to go in that way because they're, you know, they keep things on the positive, right? There's this real like lust for life about them. And I think they're just in love with life and the world, unless, you know, again, that hint of being jaded by what life has to offer. And it's for that reason that my keyword for them is the romantic. So the Knight of Cups is the romantic. You could also argue they're very dreamy too. But I'm going to argue that the Queen of, I would say the Queen of Cups is probably even more dreamy. They do have that like dreamy quality to them also though. Very important keyword to put in there too. So I wanted to mention it. So here are some good, once again, here are some good like tarot examples. Have a lot. Actually, not as much as the other two I showed, but I am going to put as many as I can fit in the frame or kind of on the edges. And I want to talk about like some that I especially want to point out because these are just some nice ones, but there's like more that like this one. I will stop it and actually pause on this one. This is the Lioness Oracle Tarot. This Knight of Cups, straight to the point, romantic with the roses. It just has that like vibe, you know, straight away. The romance in it all, right? There's some here that are good, but this one, once again, Practical Magic also has very good court cards. So if you're looking for another deck with good court cards, Practical Magic is that. They use the keyword instead of romantic. They just say charmer, but you can see it in the expression, the dreamy eyes, like the vibes. It's so to the point, but so good. I also liked that for a Knight of Cups, even though I would say this is more in the beginning of The Lord of the Rings than necessarily like later, because Aragorn's alignment does change in my opinion. But this is good that the Lord of the Rings tarot does show the side of Aragorn that is very well liked, gets along with everybody, optimistic about the world, trying his best, especially at the start when he was just a rider or strider, you know. So I like that this was included. Some of these are just like animal vibes again, or like plant vibes that go again with the 5 cent tarot. This Knight of Cups calling it charmer. Once again, romance, proposal. On the dark side of things could be a heartbreaker or jealous, right? Or inconsistent, maybe, if they're more flighty. I like that the deck brings it up. This one has just some good vibes of what I think that romantic, kind of like cutesy, but also just color vibes. The Dream Vision does a good job of that. These are some other ones. This is, once again, Northern Animal Tarot. It's not my favorite of all the Knights, but it does its job. Let's see. We have some more other ones that I think I want to talk about more so. So that's why I'm like kind of rushing through some of these. Oh, I can't. I'm going to save him. This one's just cute. Just shows the charming. These are more vibes. Vibe, I guess, kind of. But cutesy animal. Same. A lot of dolphins I noticed are getting represented. Or elephants. Elephants from the Green Glyphs. That's good. Again, the Darkwood and Everyday Witch both have great core cards. I should actually just say that right off the bat. The Knight of Cups from the Darkwood, literally amping up the romance vibes. This one with the Knight of Cups, living that la 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 dreamness. But then there's like things lurking under the surface because I'm pretty sure that's a shark, not a dolphin. So interesting depictions. I really like them, though. Even this one from the Starseeker Tarot again, I do like that it shows like a mermaid in the distance, but she's also enjoying herself. Very dreamy and cute. So, some good ones. But finally, yeah, let's talk about what happens if you're way too romantic in the wrong way. Gaston from oh, wow, why did I almost say Sleeping Beauty? Beauty and the Beast, right? He is basically that dark side of being the romantic. When you become overbearing, like annoying, like giving off creep vibes. He's definitely a Knight of Cups, just in that villainous, darker way. So I really like the Disney villain's character is really on point too with their core cards. But yeah, for those are quartz. I mean, those are cards, sorry. Cards, I have that. But let's talk now about characters, because there are some good characters, right, that I think have that Knight of Cups energy. Okay, first off, first we have Brock. Throwback, right? Brock from Pokemon. He was the first Knight of Cups that came to mind for me, really. He was such a ladies' man and always trying to, like, woo new girls that he meets. But he generally, you know, despite all that, he was very friendly with everybody. And even, you know, became a breeder Pokemon trainer, which means he, like, really cared about Pokemon. And, like, oh, you have to put love and care into them to make them, like, more powerful, right? And he tended to be also, interestingly, that voice of reason for the original trio. So that was like Ash and Misty and him. Having to help them navigate a lot of social situations too, because those two were always at each other's neck or like fumbling with things. So he really had that like Knight of Cups energy for me. But another character that so many know. I mean, you should know this. Jack Dawson, right? From Titanic. Leo's version. Or Leo, I mean, there's no other version. Charismatic, handsome. There's a reason why so many people were swooning over him. Like, especially when this movie came out. Oh my goodness. Like, people could not stop. And everybody who's watched Titanic at some point in time. Like, if you're bi, if you're just lady, if you're gay, like literally, I cannot think of anyone who did not swoon over this depiction, okay? But I think part of it, right, is because of his treatment of Rose, right? He shows the utmost respect and care for her. And he has so much class, especially in navigating some of the societal touch points that are brought up in the movie, right? Unparalleled how well he navigated it. And just, yeah, because a lot of them were not, you know, the greatest. He's also, you know, an artist, which is something that's also tied to the Knight of Cups, is like that creativity, which also I guess you could say is tied with the Knight of Wands in that way. But like They're very creative, artsy, someone who sees the best qualities of people in the world, right? He depicted very interesting people in his art subjects. So Jack Wright could really only be that Knight of Cups for those reasons. But the last one I want to talk about, I don't know how many people are going to recognize this one. But last we have to show here is Ponyboy Curtis from The Outsiders. Now this is an image from the movie, which is good, but I used to be obsessed with the book specifically in middle school. And I will say, Ponyboy is someone who is so insightful and wise beyond his years. He loves life, even if the life he leads is hard and filled with tribulations, right? He's not as well liked as his brother Soda Pop, who, by the way, I would say is also a Knight of Cups. But he is still liked by many who meet him. And he gets people to really change their worldview of things. He's more prone, I would say, maybe to that more fire side of, you know, the Knight of Cups alignment. Probably because of his moods too. He gets like very like moody in very specific parts, and for good reason, but just sometimes is. But he has passionate views of life that I think registers with so many people who have either watched the movie or read the book. Like his insights are very, very good, and the things he decides to record, right? So for that reason, these are some of my Knight of Cups. Okay, finally, we have the last one, the Knight of Pentacles, who I appreciate more, I would say, as an adult who's been through some shit than I would have appreciated this kind of character as a kid, okay? Elementally, the Knight of Pentacles is both earth and fire, which of course parallels the Page of Wands. But from a tarot standpoint, though, the Knight, I would say, is well in that process of creation and doing, and has even been toiling at it for a while. Like, a while. Their worth ethic is unlike any of the other court cards, and that's why my keyword for them is the hard worker, okay? There's probably a better word, like phrasing of that, but hard worker. Like that's straight up what I think of when I think of the Knight of Pentacles. They both have the energy and the drive to reach their goals, but they also know that in order to reach them, it is a long and slow race, and it requires even more determination and persistence than the Knight of Wands can possess, right? They're usually the one who never gives up until a goal is completed, and they'll pursue it doggedly despite the many obstacles thrown their way. I really, really, really admire this Knight, but also see myself in this card the most in terms of the Pentacles suit, but I can talk more about that in a future video. I'm not going to do that right now. So with that, let's see some great tarot examples of this. I think this, honestly, this one I think has the least amount. But let me see. I cannot remember. I got like quite a few at one point. Ooh, I'll save this one for the end. This is just more vibes again. This is Tildwyck, by the way. All these ones with the moody like this are Tildwyck. Knight of Coins from the Raven's Prophecy. Straight to the point, but tilling in the soil, right? Oh, this one's one of my favorites. I'll have to talk about that one. Prince of Pentacles. This is again from Zerner Farber. Just the vibes. Slow and steady like an elephant in some ways. Even this Knight from the Prisma Visions, kind of like that slow vibe going through on their journey. This one is one of the greatest ones. This is from the Tarot Nova. Gets kind of straight to the point, but the turtle on their back, you know, going at the slow turtle snail pace, straight to the point, but gets the idea across. I don't know why I picked this one, but yeah, this is from the Green Glyphs Tarot. A general and an army, Knight of Pentacles, same kind of vibe. You know, this is again the Line Strider Tarot. These two, once again, they just have the right vibes, right? The toolman, the hard worker. But let's, oof, sorry everyone. Ew, you got to see my desk there. Gross. Okay. Let's talk about some of these. Some of these. I think I want to point out Well, this one kind of, you see the slow pace of being on a hippo. This is Guided Hand Tarot. Let's talk about some of these. There's some great ones here in the background, but let's talk about these ones in particular. Steady Eddie, Knight of Pentacles. Once again, Practical Magic Tarot. Perfect. Perfect depiction of the hard work and determination needed. Keywords from the 5 Cent Tarot, right? Attainment, tenacity, patience. You need to be patient to be a Knight of Pentacles. But be careful, right? Because the dark side to that could be rut and routine, monotony, right? Idleness. This one shows Faramir from the Knight of Rings from the Lord of the Rings Tarot. Faramir is a good example of someone who had to have a lot of patience and put up with a lot of bullshit, especially from his dad, especially in trying to keep Osgiliath alive. Faramir, very good depiction. And this one, this might be the favorite though. This is again from the Starseeker Tarot. This Knight of Pentacles just shows how long of a road it really is to get to the end. This is like, you have to be able to see that it's arduous and still pursue it anyways. That is what the Knight of Pentacles is about. So beautiful of a depiction. Really like it. These are all good examples too, though. But I also want to talk about this one. Once again from the Disney Villains Tarot. I forget his name. Oh, man, I forget his name. But this is from Aristocats. He is a good example of the dark side of the Knight of Coins because for people, yes, he worked hard. He hustled for that countess or whatever she was. He was a butler for her. He did everything for her. And then at the end of the day, she was like, psych, I'm going to give my fortune to all my goddamn cats. And he, you know, flipped out to the extreme, right? And decided, like, I'm going to go through all these extra steps to get rid of these cats so that I am the one who inherits all of her property. Hardworking in the wrong way, but really great depiction, right? So these are the tarot examples, but let's talk about the characters. I think I picked some good ones, but we'll see what you guys think. For characters, the first one I'm going to go into, I'm not sure a lot of you will know this one, but he was the first that came to mind for me, which is Leif from Deltora Quest. This is a picture of him from the anime that they created inspired by the books. But I honestly only watched like maybe a couple episodes of this because the character art is basically highly inaccurate to the actual character descriptions in the book, and that kept bothering me. But anyways, Leif. Leif is by far one of my favorite characters, and I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that he never gave up, even when he made tons of mistakes, right? Leif is determined, he's brave, and he's very quick-witted. In fact, I almost debated if he was a Page of Swords instead, but I think he's more that Knight of Pentacles energy because he's grounded, and he also knows that the journey to reclaim the Belt of Deltora is a long one, right? It requires not just his wits, but his stamina and his drive, which are the hallmarks, right, of that Knight of Pentacles. But you know who also never gave up? Forrest Gump, right? Forrest Gump is such a Knight of Pentacles for me. He was thrown so many obstacles in life, but despite everything, right, he always found a way to overcome. He also never rushed, going with the flow of what life had to offer him, right? You could even think of him running that like cross-country journey, him and his patience waiting for the love of his life, you know, like the most determined. Forrest Gump, Knight of Pentacles for sure. But another Knight of Pentacles, in my opinion, has to be the amazing Mulan. Mulan, right, is also one of those characters that has some Page of Swords qualities to her, but overall, in my opinion, she is the Knight of Pentacles due to her work ethic and her determination. Mulan also never gave up the fight to save China and was constantly proving herself to others so that she could stay in the army, right? She was literally about to be kicked out, but went back at it again because she knew that's what needed to be done. If she had given up, right, so many lives would have been lost, but she didn't. And, you know, it was worth it in the end. And that's why all three of these are great Knights of Pentacles. And by the way, I know I showed just 3 or 4-ish of each of these. But there are so many characters, of course, that could fill these bubbles. These are just some of the ones that came first to mind to me. So if you know any other characters, you can definitely share those in the comments. But for now, this is going to be a wrap on this video, and when we come back again next time, it'll be the Queens, so stay tuned, and I hope you enjoy. For now, I'm going to go. Bye!